Now to our Why It Matters segment tonight. The peace deal proves that all those pro-Palestinian protests for the past 2 years that we heard about and we have covered extensively, they were never about Gaza. They were about killing Jews. So think about it this way. If you don't believe me, which is fine. Where are those protesters now? Where are the pro-Palestinian types who flooded American streets for years? Because back then, they justified the marches and the chants by saying it was about the suffering in Gaza, the poor Palestinians. Well, there's a ceasefire in Gaza, so it should be a cause for celebration, right? Yeah. We are not seeing joyful gatherings in the streets. People aren't banging pots and pans celebrating that Hamas might give up and the Palestinians and Israelis will somehow live in freedom and peace together. No. Instead, the same protesters who were out for the past 2 years are now out in force calling for the murder of Jews. So let's just be clear here. It was never about the Palestinians. It was never about Gaza. It was never about justice. It was about the Jews. The Gazans themselves are thrilled, understandably. The aid is flowing in a shocking turn of events. Remember how there was all sorts of suffering and famine inside Gaza? Well, now the UN reports they have enough food to feed everyone for months. And everybody's filming it with new iPhones. But for some reason, we aren't seeing the same level of jubilation and praise in America or in Europe, for that matter. And that's because the Western pro-Palestinian movement is and has always been about eradicating Israel.
7th of October is about to be every day. Every day. 7th of October is going to be every day for you. We must show up! We must show up! Stronger than we did the first October 7th.
The same way we're very comfortable accepting that Nazis don't deserve to live, fascists don't deserve to live, racists don't deserve to live, Zionists, they shouldn't live in this world.
Remember, that was all excused because it was allegedly about the Palestinians. It never was. It clearly is not now. So that's what's been happening in American cities, both big and small. And it will continue long after this war ends. In the days after the attack of October 7th, 2 years ago, I told you, our viewers, remember these were the videos of what Hamas was doing. I told you, our viewers, that we were witnessing a moment that required extreme moral clarity. There were people in the streets in America celebrating this, and I took an awful lot of flack for saying what we needed to talk about was this, and that this was evil, and anybody who celebrated it or excused it needed to be called out. It is even more true today than it was back then. Even tonight, as Gazans return home and the discussion about rebuilding are taking shape, that anti-Jewish, that Jew hate, that anti-Semitism has spread throughout the United States and Europe, and it is growing like a cancer. They wrap themselves in the Palestinian flag. They didn't care a lick about the Palestinians. So they're going to be talking about their hatred for the Jewish people. So many of the people who protested for peace have absolutely zero interest in living peacefully with the more than 7 million Jews living in America or the millions living in the United Kingdom. So that's why they harass and attack innocent people who have nothing to do with the war in Gaza. 2 Israeli embassy staffers shot point blank in our nation's capital. The fire bombings in St. Louis and at the Pennsylvania governor's mansion. The attack in Colorado where a man literally lit Jewish people on fire at a vigil. These attacks didn't happen for any other reason than hatred. A hatred that started in Europe, maybe more accurately started in the Middle East, spread to Europe, and is now growing here in America. Which is why I will say that again. All of the marches over the past 2 years, all of the protests, were never about the Palestinians.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.